Can you tell us who you are and where you come from?
So my name's Tom from TCM Air Conditioning, and I'm from Crawley, West Sussex. I'm a air conditioning engineer. I've been doing it for probably going on 18 years now.
Before you did this, what was your first ever job?
So my first ever job, my dad was a jeweller in Hatton Garden. Got my first job as a jeweller. I say a jeweller, I was working in a jewellery shop.
How did you get into HVAC?
Funny story, I was actually in college doing art, design, photography and fashion. I was interested, but my mind was elsewhere. So ended up dropping out of college. My mum, she's great and everything, but she said, either you got to get a job or you got to do something or you get out. So she ended up getting me a job with a air conditioning company because she worked in a recruitment agency. And it all just went from there, and then ended up getting an apprenticeship. What
was the apprenticeship like? Can you talk us through what that was like as a 16-year-old getting into HVAC?
The first week was quite intimidating. It was very hard work. It was, I was lugging really heavy, like people will know they're like big nitrogen bottles. They're 20-litre nitrogen bottles, big sort of cylinders. And you sort of get them on your shoulder and you're walking up the scaffold ladders onto the roof. And it was tough, like as a small kid. After that first week, I was just like, mate, this is not for me. Like, I can't do it. But yeah, the guy was just breaking me in. But in general, it was really good. The first engineer I had was a little bit questionable. When the second engineer came in, who I was working under, top bloke, he was like really good, explained everything to me, getting me hands-on, getting me sort of thinking really, and getting me to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, it's natural. But he was sort of saying, oh, why would you do it that way instead of doing it this way? Okay, try it that way. It was more sort of like, he would say, oh yeah, just do it your way. And then it would be wrong. And then he'd say, right, this is how you do it. And I showed you this because, you have to make these mistakes along the way. We get on the job, look at it, and he'd sort of ask me questions and, what do you think? That asking an apprentice that, and you think like, why is he asking me? But it's really important to have that one person who, you can sort of also rely on. So like as an apprentice, you get stuck, like everyone's gonna get stuck. But when you can go to someone and say, oh, like, I've got this and I don't know how to work it out, he was really understanding and, sort of had my back a lot of the time. If I like messed up or whatever, he'd sort of, back me up a little bit to the boss or, and I hear a lot of people don't have great apprenticeships or they get treated badly or, and I think, everyone starts somewhere. I think people are quick to forget where they've come from, how hard it was, or, no one knows everything, even till the day they give up. They don't know everything.
What is it about what you do that you enjoy the most?
What gets me up in the morning is definitely going out, being on the tools, figuring out problems, for sure. There's been times where I've come across something I haven't seen before, or I've got to do something that's really tricky. And being someone who's on their own all the time, it's very difficult to do it by yourself. So to go in there and having this problem, to then coming out at the end of the day and you solve this problem, that's definitely an achievement for me. But also I like being in the van. A lot of people hate it. People hate commuting. And don't get me wrong, it's not my favourite part of the day. I have a bit of, I don't want to say a special relationship with the van, but it's sort of, it's my safe space. I was sort of, the word would probably be homeless for pretty much a year, living out the back of a van. And it was, full of tools, it wasn't like a camper van. It was like in a sleeping bag in the front seat, And for me, it's like I spent a lot of time in a van, very sort of dark times, very sad times, very lonely. And it's so weird because it's like, it's transport at the end of the day. It gets you from A to B, it gets you from, job to job, home to job, whatever. But for me, it was more, that's all I had. I had that in a bag, that's it. Having the time now where it's sort of I can get up and go to work and, have a home to go to, it's a bit more, I appreciate it a lot more. What I used to do is I'd be in the van for a week at a time, and luckily enough, I was working in leisure centres all the time. So I could have a shower in a leisure centre and get changed and whatever. It was a pretty tough time with my mental health. There's a lot of unresolved issues that I still have. Going around your mates, seeing your mates and there's nothing going on. Yeah, it's a very weird time, but at the other side now, but at the time it was pretty brutal.
Can you remember the point where you felt like you got through that?
So the time I knew I got through it was when me and my missus, we moved in together, and when I met her, I had nothing. When I mean nothing, I had my stuff stored in my mum's house, but she ended up having a flood in the garage. So all my stuff just got ruined. It was I had nothing left. All I had when I met her was a gym bag, a small satchel, a small gym bag. I led a very, I don't want to say simple life, but I just didn't have nothing. I didn't have a lot of material things, but I had a lot of memories. I had my BMX. That was my thing that got me through everything, and it was. That's when I knew it was okay, it's coming to the end now. It was quite a surreal feeling. It's definitely, you feel like I still got it now, but imposter syndrome, because you're how has this person taken me on with nothing? Literally I have zero.
What's the worst part about being a HVAC engineer? What's the part of the day on a particular job that you would dread?
So the worst part for me is being outside in the elements. So it's pretty brutal out there in the winter when you're on a call out, unit shut down on the roof, you've got to go up there, try and fault find it. It's snow, -1, -2, and you're just you feel like your hands are gonna fall off. The other thing I would probably say is the amount of different tools that you need is pretty brutal. So you have to carry specialist tools, then you've got your general power tools that sort of everyone uses, but then you've got plumbing gear, electrical gear. It's a few trades mixed into one, if that makes sense. It's sort of refrigeration and air conditioning, but then you've got your electrical side, and then you've got your plumbing side, and there's just all these different elements, and most units are high level, so you've got to carry tall ladders, and I'd probably say that trumps it all, is probably the amount of tools that you need. That's why tradesmen get so upset with tool theft, and it needs to be spoken about. But tool theft I've been done 4 times, mate, and it's just every time it just gets worse. The feeling gets worse. For me, and I'm sure for every other tradesman, their tools are their lifeline. And for me, the van at one point was my lifeline. So for someone to break in and violate that and steal all your hard work, it's disgusting. And I hate it. It's and hate's such a strong word, but it's very. I think it's very demeaning to tradespeople. They've worked hours and hours, weeks, months, years to get what they have, and someone can take it in less than 2 minutes. It riles me up a little bit.
What's the weirdest day you've had on the job?
I don't think I have a weirdest day, but I definitely have a weirdest time in the job. So I was working for somebody, and this is when I was riding sort of BMX quite heavily at the time. And I got a phone call from the guy who used to sponsor me, and he said, I've got something on. I can't really tell you what it is, but just be here at a certain time, whatever. And it was a casting for the 2012 opening ceremony for the Olympics. And I went to this rehearsal thing, an audition, and ended up getting the part for it, whatever, with a few of other friends as well. There was a few other people involved. And it was just this weird time where I was working in the day, so I was doing my 9 till 5, or my 8 till 5 at the time, and then I'd have to rush from London over to where the practice area was, and ride there till 10 o'clock at night, then go home, then get up, do my job. And it was such a weird experience. So I was extra in the new Mary Poppins Returns as well. And that was the same thing. I was doing 8 till 5, and I'd go home, have a bit of dinner, and then I'd go back to London for 10 and ride my bike all through the night, get home at 4 a.m, and then wake up at 6 and then go back out. And that was for quite a while.
Have you got anyone that you look up to, or that inspires you in the trade or the trades in general?
There's a couple of guys that I'm close with in the trade at the minute. There's a guy called Jack and a guy called Will. I speak to them on a regular basis, and they we all help each other out. We all talk about our problems we come across site, personal and work-wise. There's another guy I used to work with. His name's Jamie. He's been there. He was there through my really tough times, and he's like an older engineer now. I say older, I think he's turning 50. He's a top bloke, and he's been with me through thick and thin. So in regards to in the HVAC trade, like they're probably people that spring to mind.
How important is that group chat?
I think it's very important to have like-minded people or people that are a bit further on to help you get to where you want to be. I think people who don't give you that advice, or people that don't want you to achieve stuff, I think it's quite selfish. Who doesn't want to see your mates do well?
What's the most pointless tool you've ever invested in, or the worst tool you've ever come across?
So I wouldn't say it's the worst tool. It's probably the most pointless one is battery powered flaring tools. And they also do drill powered ones, anything sort of it's overcomplicating it. When you're in a tight space in the ceiling and you've got to get a tool in there, you've got to try and get this like big bulky battery powered thing in the ceiling to just try and make off a little bit of pipe. For me, it's pointless. You can just have your little flaring block that I've been using for years, and you just twist it a couple of times. Just a manual tool. It's never failed me. It's probably never failed anybody else.
How's the industry changed since you started?
I think it's changed a lot. Going from, I've been doing it for 18 years or so. With the industry itself, so just air conditioning in general, the regulations have definitely improved. So the way, you're recovering and vacuuming and, like all the procedures have really been, they've really been tightened up. Everyone's sort of pretty much doing a good job at the minute, from what I can see. The tools have got a lot better. Obviously the battery powered stuff has played a massive part. They've got, wireless things, so you can do it on an app on your phone. So if you're charging up refrigerant in a big system, you can do it on your phone. It will tell you how much is in there, how much is taken out. Yeah, it's just been a lot more dialed in with regards to the tools. There's a lot of good manufacturers out there that have made the job a lot easier, a lot safer for people, and just a lot more convenient as well.
Is it become more accessible for people getting into the trade than perhaps it was when you were an apprentice?
I want to say it's harder. I've had people message me and say, like, look, I'm thinking about getting into the trade, or I'm not being treated right, or how can I get around this problem? And to be honest, I don't have an answer for them. I can only give my opinion. I think that it's not getting taught in schools as much. I think it needs to be really an option. Like, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know whether it is, because when I was in school, plumbing and carpentry and all that stuff wasn't even spoke about. It wasn't even an option. It was, what college are you going to go to? Or are you going to go straight onto a job? Or, I think it's something that really needs to be honed in on and give the young guys and girls an opportunity to be something in the trade, because I don't know whether it still has a stigma, but I know a long time ago it was looked down on, and I don't think it is that way anymore. I was really into science as growing up as a kid. I really enjoyed science. It's probably one of the only GCSEs I actually got. So having that as sort of like a background, and then that does tie into the refrigeration of, how refrigerant works under temperatures and things like that. It's very sort of science-based, you know. Now the technology's got a lot better, so you know, a lot of it you can sort of kind of look at it and go, well, that's the problem. But going back to basics, you know, how things work, going into a trade for me was probably the best thing I ever did. And I think the younger generation need to know that it's not a plan B. It can be your plan A. You know, a lot of people think, oh, get a trade, get qualified, go and do what you want to do, and if that don't work out, fall back on the trade.
If you could change anything about the industry, about HVAC in general, or the building trade in general, what do you think it'd be?
It's a bit controversial. I don't know whether people are going to like it, but just because you have an F-gas qualification, it doesn't make you an air conditioning and refrigeration engineer. You know, to go on from that, it's quite easily accessible. You know, I did, you know, two and a half years in college, and then I've done however many years, hours on site, learning, doing the job, going to call-outs to get to where I am. And the fact that people can get a day course or a 2-day course and call themselves an aircon guy or girl, I think it's quite demeaning of the trade, because you can't do that in a lot of other trades. You know, you can't just pick up a set of cutters and be an electrician. You know, you can't just, you know, pick up a set of pipe cutters and be a plumber. You know, you have to learn, you have to go and do these things. The fact that people are jumping on this bandwagon just because they can get a qualification, I think is wrong, and I think it's a bit of a slap to all the people that have gone and done their time and really put effort into it.
Long term, what do you think the effects of that would be if that is sort of allowed to continue?
It's very controversial. People are not going to like it, but I think it's going to be that cowboy builder thing all over again. You know, it's going to be people that go, I've got an F-gas, I'm going to go and do whatever. But then when it comes to a system that's breaking down and you have no idea what's going on, you know, I've done 15 years of that to figure that out. I think it's going to be the thing where people will do all these installs and do whatever, and then it will be somebody clearing up the pieces. And I think there will just be a bad stigma about it.
So if you weren't a HVAC engineer, what do you think you'd be?
I think the thing that would probably draw me in the most is probably a bricklayer. That's something that I would really like to do. I have no clue how to build a wall at the minute. I have no idea what it takes, you know, but I just really enjoy something from the ground up. When you see something from start to finish. So I would like to do something like that, you know, first fix carpenter, you know, doing roofs or, you know, framing, things like that. That's probably what I would go towards.
What advice would you give to the next generation?
Ask questions. Don't be scared of asking questions. You know, it might seem stupid at the time, but you're gonna need it one day, you know. Get a notebook or an iPad or whatever you can find your notes and just write down everything, you know, just write it all down. It might seem useless now, but yeah, I would say watch, listen, you know, if you've got a question, ask it, get it stuck in to, if you're working with an engineer, get stuck in, don't sit back and be on your phone and watching videos, like, you know, going scrolling through in the internet. Get stuck in, you know, see what he's doing, ask questions, take photos. Just try hard. You know, these people are employing you, you know, to do something. You know, they're employing you for you to do a job, and I think like you should take pride in what you're doing. So, I think just, you know, get your head stuck in.
What's your favourite tool?
I've got a sentimental tool I use nearly every day. And it's a pipe cutter. It's an old red big pipe cutter, and it was the first engineer I spoke about. I worked with him, and his advice to me was, we've got to build you a tool bag. You know, it's okay working out of my tool bag, but you need something to call your own. And I'll never forget, we went into the suppliers and I was starting building my little toolkit together, my cheap tools and stuff, you know, to get me going. And he was like, right, grab them. And he bought them with his own money and he gave them to me and he said, right, these are yours. He's like, do what you want with them. He's like, but this is your first set of pipe cutters. Yeah, these Rothenberger tube cutters. They're old, they're heavy. They've been, I mean, look at the state of them. They've been well used. That's 20 years worth. But, they've got like weight to them so you can do them up and undo them. I used to have a deburrer on the end, but that's gone missing. Every time I look at them, I just think like, it's just the first thing I got, that was like aircon wise. It's like my first thing that I had. I was like, I could call my own.
Where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
So people can find me majority of the time, Instagram and TikTok. The Instagram is just TCM Air Conditioning Services, and TikTok is Aircon Tom. I'm Tom, and this is Behind the Trade.